Anthony Smith, by the way. He's fighting Zhang Ming Yang.
Yeah.
Zhang Ming Yang. Do you know what? We'll talk about this because people will expect us to, of course. And I wish Anthony the best. It's his retirement fight. It's in Kansas City, which is kind of like a home game for him, coming from Nebraska. Taking on Zhang Ming Yang, though. Hey.
Yeah.
You can't say that Anthony hasn't got balls. This guy, I forget his record off the top of my head. Every single one of his wins has been in the first round. His last one was in Macau. I commentated it. I remember when he was giving his post-fight speech, screaming his head off in Chinese, and his veins are popping out of his neck. And I'm standing there thinking, this guy's a handful. He's a big, strong, young, aggressive bastard. Granted, he's got a few losses, but Anthony doesn't want to lay up. He could have asked for an easier matchup. So fair play to him.
Yeah. And you know, and I think that Anthony knows that, right? He's a well-known established fighter in the UFC. They're not going to give you any, even if it's your retirement fight. That's how this business works, is you're still going to have to fight. 18-6 with 12 KOs. We just got it from Harrington on the side there. So no easy matchups. And all I hope is that now that he's had a lot of time to process everything, and like you talked about, fighting in Kansas City, fighting close to home, you hope that the motivation is there. And if that's the case, Anthony's got to remember that he's a bastard to deal with too when he's in there and when he's on his game. So that's an exciting fight. I'll be calling that one. So, you know, not that I root for anybody, but I'll be rooting for somebody.
May the best man win.
Yeah,
may the best man win. Of course, he's got to be motivated for that one. Your final fight. Of course, the last couple of situations didn't go his way. And, you know, he's had some ups and downs recently, shall we say, with his record. Your final fight, if that can't get you up for it, and certainly against this guy that's super dangerous with the striking, you got to pull out all the stops, because it's only when you're done fighting and retiring, when you retire from fighting, because we I don't know if we have spoke about this, but I always say, when you look back, you know, because I have some regrets from my career. You know, like some of my regrets were, I take better care of my body now than what I did when I was fighting.
Yeah,
I was reckless. You know, I partied. Don't get me wrong. When I was in training camp, I was switched on. I would run every day. I wouldn't touch alcohol. But after a fight, it was out the window. My diet went to shit. I didn't look after my body in between fights. And then I would pick up. And so that's my big regret. You know, so for Anthony, he's just got to go out and make sure he prepares the way he should, do all the work, be in phenomenal shape, don't get tired. And I wish him nothing but the best. But what are some of your regrets, Paul?
It's very similar, Michael. And it's because of the weight cuts too, right? You're so strict in camp that when it's all said and done, you're just so ready to have fun, to do everything that you couldn't do. And for me, I was the same way. No drinking, no anything during training camp. But in between, I love drinking my beers. I loved eating shitty food and snacks and lots of candy and all that kind of crap. And I would get up to almost 200 pounds, and I fought at lightweight. So another camp comes around and got to do it all over again and torture myself. And the only other regret I would say that I had was I got a little bitter towards the sport after I lost to Dan, who we'll get to kind of go over all that today too, which will be fun. But I should have fought more. I think when I was still kind of in my prime and I was still only 35, 36, even though I was upset that I wasn't necessarily getting those the top tier guys after a couple losses, I should have just regrouped and got my head out of my ass a little bit. But instead, I was ready to move on. I started doing triathlons and was competitive in that way. So I was able to kind of just push it away. But now that I'm 40 and I've been retired for almost 5 years, basically, I think I would have given a few more fights to the career. But I also know that the motivation wasn't there at the time. So there's nothing you can do about it. But yeah, staying healthy and being more dialed in nutrition-wise. So I was always training. I never stopped training. I would just train and then go drink a 6-pack and eat a pint of ice cream after
but that's okay.
You know?
That's okay. You're always training. We were just talking right before we started. I saw a video of you on Instagram in the gym with the guys pushing hard. And I was like, I would be blowing out of my ass doing that stuff right now. But of course, you do the triathlon stuff. You said you got a little bitter about the sport. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I obviously, when I dropped that close decision to Hooker, I was ready to retire. That's why I was almost retiring in the cage. And Dan kind of stopped me, put my hands up. And I think he was kind of looking out for me like, nah, man, like this was close. It went my way, but you don't have to walk away from it right now. And I came back and I was like, maybe I'll take another fight, but I just didn't even want to go to the gym anymore. I didn't want to train anymore. I was so upset that I lost that fight because I knew I was going to get what Dan got, that I was going to get the Poirier fights, that I could be calling out Conor, I could be calling out Gaethje. That was going to put me into those positions to not only get closer to the title, but to get those big fights that would get me the bigger contracts to make me a lot more money. And when that went away and I already had the commentary job, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I didn't even want to be a part of the sport anymore.
See, that's interesting because I had similar situations when I fought Chael Sonnen. If I'd have beaten him, I was fighting Anderson Silva for the title. Now, granted, in retrospect, I probably wasn't ready for Anderson Silva back then anyway, so everything kind of worked out for the best. But I didn't have a commentary job. So I was like, well, you know, most of the grindstone, forget it. It didn't go my way. Let's go. Do you think in hindsight, having the commentary job kind of maybe... I don't mean affected your career negatively, but did it affect your career negatively?
No, you're right. I think for that reason, at that point in my life, I think it made that decision may become more abrupt than it would have.
All right, this episode is sponsored by Shopify, and Shopify are here to make it extremely easy for you if you're thinking about starting a business. If you're an entrepreneur, you want to take things to the next level, you want to get online, you want to have an e-commerce site, you want to sell to the worldwide audience, get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere where people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, allowing you to focus on the important stuff, growing your business. Sign up right now to Shopify for $1 per month, a trial period at shopify.com/believe. All lowercase. Shopify.com/believe to start selling today with Shopify. Shopify.com/believe.